Long-term travel as a neurodivergent adult can be amazing, but it definitely comes with unique challenges. In this video, I'm sharing some of the hurdles I've faced and how I'm dealing with them. I've timestamped each of the challenges so you can skip ahead when you need to. One challenge I definitely face, and I think it's pretty common with other neurodivergent people, is keeping track of things, keeping them from getting damaged. So I've lost headphones a couple times, tripod, my prescription sunglasses, and my regular glasses. Yeah, so that's expensive and really annoying. Solutions and ways around this. I do know that having fewer things to keep track of makes it a lot easier to not lose things. I also really like to keep backups of the really important things, the really critical things, and also the things that will be really difficult to replace. So I had backup sunglasses and I have backup vision glasses. The next big challenge is around planning and logistics. So it would have made a ton of sense for me to plan every stop in advance. Also would have made sense financially, most likely. And I could have done accommodation, everything. But part of me wanted to keep things open because I just thought, well, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe I want to do something different. Or one thing I did is when I was arriving in Australia, I had a panicky moment where I thought, oh, this is the time they're going to ask to see proof of an onward flight. So I did just book a one-way from Sydney to Manila, not really knowing if that was even going to work. And so, of course, it didn't. I had a choice. I could either move the flight and pay the fee, or I could just swallow the cost of it. I think it was maybe, I don't know, let's say $300. In hindsight, I could have definitely just flown direct from Melbourne to this particular island. Yeah, logistically, financially, that probably didn't make the most sense to have 3 one-ways. However, it did mean that I got to spend a couple days with a friend of mine in Sydney, and we had such a good time. So aside from lessons around planning better or committing and making decisions, I also just try to keep track of my notes in an app on my phone, and it syncs to my computer. Mostly though, I'm just using Google Maps. So I save places I want to go, and then I have a nice visual storing things like my hotel, restaurants, cafes, grocery stores. That also means when I step outside, I can just quickly pull up directions to somewhere. So it means I'm not standing around and looking like a lost tourist. Also, I meet people and they'll give me suggestions for restaurants, so it's nice to just save it directly to the map and I don't have to rely on terrible memory. So long-term travel generally means slow travel, spending longer in places. I've not been following my own advice. I've been moving around too much, and it's because I've been prioritizing house sits wherever I go. What that means, though, is that I'm fitting in with that schedule, and oftentimes these cat sits can be shorter periods. I guess you can tell by the surroundings. It's a fairly basic hotel, but it serves my needs, and I'm on a budget. I'm not, this isn't my vacation. This is my life, so I'm not spending as if I was on vacation. As an autistic person with ADHD, I can definitely say that routines are helpful and that it just cuts down on a lot of the overwhelm. So other benefits are just that the day is a little bit more predictable. So for me, creating a daily routine has been pretty crucial for managing sensory and logistical challenges of travel. Once I'm awake, I've started forcing myself to do exercise, using this time to try to build up some strength and stability. After that, I go get some breakfast. I go do any errands in the morning before it gets too hot. Then I come back, do some work, and in the evening, I'll go out for dinner again. Of course, when I have a travel day, all of that goes out the window. Or if I have an excursion, which is rare, but again, or if I'm meeting people, there's going to be days where I can't do that routine, and that's okay. I kind of treat that as a weekend. I also used to give myself a 2-night minimum rule. So if I'm going somewhere, I make myself stay at least 2 nights, but I think that's not right anymore. I would rather travel somewhere and have 1 night and be there, for example, for something happening in the morning, such as a flight or some other activity. And even if it's 1 night, that's fine because I can then pack my bags in a way that I don't have to take everything out. I think 2 nights is actually pretty short because then you're taking stuff out and you have to pack it all up again. It's not the trade-off's not there. So it's kind of either 1 night or 3+ nights, I think is the rule, but maybe 4 or 5 is better from a sleep point of view, but I'll talk about that in a minute. For my work routine, I am using a daily planner called Sunsama now, and it's been recommended by a few different ADHD people, and I'm finding it good. In their marketing, they say it helps you feel calm and stay focused, and that's probably true. I am liking it a lot. If you want to check it out, I have a personal referral link in the description. Earlier, I touched on sleep. Yes, sleep is a big one, especially if you're like me, you're midlife, and I don't know. I'm just sensitive to everything noise, sounds, smells. I can't sleep if the sheet is the wrong fabric. One of the challenges I've had here in particular in the Philippines is just getting used to the noise. Well, first of all, the windows are basically like louvered slats. It's not a solid pane of glass, so all of the noise comes in. And there's a lot of motorbikes and there's dogs, and you can hear people, either other guests or sometimes staff. I will say though that now that I'm about 6 days in, I've definitely adjusted quite a bit. I still sleep with my noise canceling headphones in, but I can sleep for longer stretches now, which is really nice. And the thing about staying in accommodation, even reading the reviews, you still can't really tell what it's going to be like until you get there. Just trying to follow all of the sleep hygiene recommendations. In fact, I said last night was my best night of sleep. It was also the day after I was snorkeling a lot yesterday, so I suppose all of that exercise helps as well to help me sleep. Please share your own solo travel experiences in the comments, and if you've tried long-term travel, please share what that was like, and if you would do it again, or if you haven't, if you would do it. Obviously if circumstances allowed it. The next challenge I have is around social interactions. So I'm a huge introvert. I would always prefer to socialize with maybe one other person at a time, or at least say 4 or less. And that's obviously not always possible. I think with long-term travel, there's not a lot of predictability about socializing unless you're staying in the same place. I genuinely enjoy speaking to people and just finding out a little bit about their travels and what they're up to. Lately, when I was in Australia, I had people that I knew, so that was quite nice. And now I'm in the Philippines, I don't know anybody. So what I will do, if I show up early in a place, I will try to schedule a tour quite early on, or a couple tours, so that I don't know, I have a chance to meet other people. So where I'm at right now in the Philippines, I'm actually seeing a lot of other solo women travelers around. They tend to be younger, but it's sort of funny. Nobody's making a huge amount of effort to talk to each other. No. I suppose as well, a lot of the social challenges that people like me are having is the social anxiety and just the potential for misunderstandings and miscommunications. I'm going to probably do a separate video about making friends and sort of all the social interactions and things like that when you're traveling solo. Safety is a major consideration for any solo traveler and essential to be aware of risks like drink spiking. Personally, I've experienced this multiple times, so I'm very vigilant about it. I always go by the rule of, don't get drunk in public or, by yourself or with people you don't know. Another one is just knowing what my physical limits are. Having the opportunity to hike up a hill, I didn't leave early enough in the morning and it got too hot and there was smoke. They were burning garden waste. I just thought, no, I'm going to turn around. I can always try this again another time. Obviously, if that had been my only opportunity, that would have been more of a tricky decision. But I don't regret that I turned back. I didn't want to risk, I don't know, just feeling really faint or passing out because of the smoky air and the extra heat. I have this lock mechanism that goes on the door on the inside. So if I'm in a room, it's like an extra layer of protection. For example, this lock here, it's just one of those like button on the middle of the doorknob locks. There's no additional chain or deadbolt. So I don't have any specific concerns about my safety here, but it's just like extra peace of mind. Of course, if I'm not in the room, if somebody really wanted to get in, I'm sure they could. But I just lock my valuables inside my suitcase. To reiterate, solo travel, long-term travel for autistic people is completely possible. If you're interested in more support for your travel adventures, check out my website at betterndtravel.com. I'm also on Instagram. Please share your own experiences with solo travel in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.